Resuming debate, the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of National Revenue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Bon après-midi à tous et à toutes. And it's great to be here to start off with the session. And it's great to speak on an important topic that impacts Canadians from coast to coast to coast. And I know in the riding I represent, the riding I represent in Vaughan Woodbridge, and the region that I live in York Region, which will see in the coming years over a quarter of the population growth in Ontario will be settled in York Region, will move to York Region, and with that, the needs for new, modern infrastructure investments will be even greater. Economic activity in York Region is second to none. We're an area of over almost 1.3 million people with leading technology, auto parts, auto manufacturers, tech companies, you name it, we have it happening in York Region. Modern infrastructure is necessary. It's necessary to get our families home and our kids home safely in the evening. It's necessary to have the resources for internet to rural areas in Canada, including the northern areas in York Region. And what I can say before I begin about speaking about specifically some of the actions that we've taken in specific funds, our government is committed to investing in infrastructure across Canada. We're committed in our plan. And when we talk about deficits, we know the prior government left a number of deficits. They left an infrastructure deficit. They left a social deficit. They left a green deficit. They left a cultural deficit. Why? Because they had no plan to invest in Canadians and Canada across things. I hear some of my colleagues on the other side are agreeing with what I said, so I thank them for those comments that they would say, and I look forward to their questions afterwards. So thank you so much. What I will say is we've worked and we've signed the bilateral agreements with provinces from coast to coast to coast and territories. We've been working with the cities. We worked with FCM. There's been no better relationship for representatives on the table, for stakeholders, whether it's mayors, whether it's chairs of regional areas, whether it's premiers. We've worked in tandem, and the door has been open in our government to ensure that the projects that are identified, and we know it goes bottom up, that are identified by the cities, that are identified as key projects, take paramount for those investments to take place. And Mr. Speaker, you look at our record, you look at the 4,800 projects that have been started and are commenced in different stages of construction, the $57 billion that's been approved. We are working well with our partners. This is a much different story than what happened in the past. That was not the story. That was not the story we could tell in this chamber that we are privileged to sit in and represent our constituents. So, Mr. Speaker, with that, I would like to focus my remarks today about the essential importance of partnerships and the partnerships that we've seen through the Green Municipal Fund. The Green Municipal Fund is currently a $1.5 billion revolving fund administered by the Federation of Canadian Municipalities to help support municipal sustainability innovation across the country. It was a previous Liberal government that the GMF was created as an important policy instrument for gaining experience in the development and execution of sustainability projects, working together in collaboration with all levels of government across this beautiful country that we live in. We are continuing to execute in building the necessary infrastructure that we all need for a successful, for productive, and for my constituents, for a prosperous country that we call home. Working together, we've established and are sharing best practices, lessons learned, and improving the overall environment performance of municipal installations. Federal government involvement with the FCM Green Municipal Fund is a reminder of how well the federal government can work with funding organizations and other key stakeholders to support the efforts of municipalities in achieving their environmental sustainability goals. And we know how important climate change is. So it was great to announce in York Region funds allocated to the Disaster Mitigation Fund. It was great to announce in York Region's funds to get it dedicated to waste and wastewater treatment facilities. Those type of dedicated funding sources, those types of announcements improve the quality of life, improve the productivity of our region, and that's what we will continue to do as a federal government, working with the regional authorities, working with our municipalities, and working with the province of Ontario, of course. Federal government involvement with the FCM Green Municipal Fund is a reminder of how well the federal government can work with the funding organizations and other key stakeholders to support the efforts of Canadian municipalities in achieving their environmental sustainability goals. Mr. Speaker, I do want to state that I will be sharing my time with my friend and honourable colleague, the member for Ottawa Centre. How can these goals be achieved, Mr. Speaker? Our government is in strong partnership with the Green Municipal Fund. which provides financial support to municipalities with environmental projects relating to brownfields, energy, water, transportation, and integrated community plans. Since 2000, the GMF has supported more than 1,200 municipal sustainability initiatives through its unique mix of training, resources, and funding. Of the initiatives funded to date, 199 have been capital projects that involve retrofitting, construction, replacement, expansion, or purchase and installation of fixed assets or infrastructure. These capital projects have helped to reduce cumulatively greenhouse gas emissions by over 2 million tons, improve the quality of around 700,000 cubic meters of soil, treat more than 240,000 cubic meters of wastewater per year, make around 80 hectares of previously contaminated land available for use, reduce water consumption by almost 310,000 cubic meters per year, and divert 170,000 tons of waste from landfill per year. Again, Mr. Speaker, we are making progress in our plan to invest in Canada and Canadians through our $180 billion plus infrastructure plan. It is transformational. It answers the call of climate change, and it answers the call of a growing population and needs to replace aging infrastructure. We know what the deficit is. We know the deficit was less. We're chipping away at it, and we're working well with FCM. We're working well with our mayors, our big city mayors. We're working well with the provinces. We're at the table. We're signing those bilateral agreements and listening. Most importantly, Mr. Speaker, we are listening, Mr. Speaker, to the cities and to their priorities. The GMF is delivered by the FCM on behalf of Environment and Climate Change Canada, Natural Resources Canada, and Infrastructure Canada. Our job as a government is to provide oversight of GMF operations through its GFM Council and its peer review committee. For the record, GMF Council is comprised of 15 members, 5 which are federal. The Council advises the FCM on the management of GMF. The Council comprises representatives from the federal government, Environment and Climate Change Canada, Natural Resources and Infrastructure Canada, municipal officials and external members representing the public, private, academic, and environmental sectors. The Peer Review Committee is comprised of 75 members, 20 being federal. This committee provides the GMF and the federal council members with expert environmental science, as well as clean technology advice, analysis of funding proposals, and the evaluation of the environmental outcomes of the projects that are funded. Mr. Speaker, in 2000, the Government of Canada created 2 complementary GMF funds, the first being the Green Municipal Enabling Fund, and the second being that of the Green Municipal Investment Fund, where program delivery was delegated to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. They know best, Mr. Speaker. Our mayors across this country, whether it's in rural Canada, urban Canada, in whatever jurisdiction, in whatever province we may call home, the mayors, the local city councillors, they know best the needs for their cities. Whether it's housing being built, whether it's investments in sidewalks, whether it's investments in local soccer fields for kids to play on safely, we know and we are listening to them and we have partnered with them. And in the last over 4 years, there has been no better partner for the cities in Canada than this government. And this will continue, Mr. Speaker. Of course, over the course of 2000 and 2005, the Government of Canada endowed the Federation of Canadian Municipalities with $550 million to establish the GMF. This amount comprised an initial endowment of $125 million in budget 2000, a subsequent endowment of $125 million in 2001, and $300 million in 2005. In 2005, a new funding agreement was signed, merging the Green Municipal Enabling Fund and the Green Municipal Investment Fund into a single Green Municipal Fund. Moving forward to 2016, when we brought in budget 2016, the Government of Canada committed an additional $125 million to the GMF as part of Infrastructure Canada's Investing in Canada plan. We know the Investing in Canada plan is making a difference in the daily lives of commuters. It's making a difference in the daily lives of citizens across this country, whether you take public transportation or need your own vehicle to commute to work, or bringing your kids to a soccer field, ice hockey rink, baseball field, or even to get some STEM lessons, which we know are so important in tomorrow's economy. This subsequently brought the total endowment to $625 million. To manage this additional funding from budget 2016, a new funding agreement was signed in 2018 between Environment and Climate Change Canada, Natural Resources Canada, Infrastructure Canada, and FCM. Again, Mr. Speaker, we are partnering with the partners that know best and where these dollars need to flow to and need to be invested. Budget 2019, I'm proud to say, provided an additional $950 million for the GMF transfer through NRCan. The $950 million will support 3 new program streams, planned for launch in late spring or early 2020, and are focused on increasing energy efficiency. These programs are Low Carbon Cities Canada, Sustainable Affordable Housing and Innovation, and Community Eco-Efficiency Acceleration. To date, the Government of Canada has invested a total of $1.5 billion in the GMF, of which the FCM is to hold over $1 billion in perpetuity. Yes, Mr. Speaker, in perpetuity and annuity in terms of being able to invest continually and without seeing a sunset clause of when those funds will not be there, i.e. making long-term strategic investments for what is best for the cities and towns that we call home across this country. This additional funding will help accelerate the government's climate change objectives, specifically via financing investments at the municipal level in energy efficiency in residential, commercial, and multi-unit buildings. The FCM anticipates by the end of their 5-year current plan for the GMF, which ends in 2023. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I look forward to questions and comments. Thank you.
Question